sort of the process we went through while we were there for the 3 hours was we would read the name of the name and the biography, short biography of all the people who died while in ICE custody, and then we would blow whistles. So we thought that was a good marker, and was very disruptive. We got some very loud whistles. And so every 90 seconds,
your ears still ringing?
We were all like this. We were all blue.
But the other thing that I would love to see get done this year is some data privacy legislation going through this year. We don't have anything yet we have a little bit on the books, but not enough. And the more things that we hear about AI and how some of the big outfits are treating people's data and moving data around with people not even understanding and knowing it. I think that we need to be able to get something on the books this year too.
Public trust in government seems to be at an all-time low. Yeah. And to make any kind of consolidation decisions, we need to rebuild that trust first. And we are not there. We need to communities need to feel like they can trust the leaders they've elected to this state, and the state needs to feel like they can trust the federal government, and we are not there.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creamy.
Vermont politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creamy. We've got an action-packed episode today.
Action-packed episode, and we have always wondered what happens if we wear black against a black curtain.
Yeah.
And we double-barreled it today, so we will find out. We might be floating heads.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the first few times that we were in the studio, I really put a lot of thought into what am I going to wear and all that stuff. And then I borderline forgot that we were recording today. So yeah.
We've learned we can only look so good.
we have limitations. We've hit them.
We are limited.
Okay. Fair enough. We have 3 different interview segments in this episode.
Yeah, it'll be fun to edit and put all this together.
Yeah.
Actually, I think 3 different segments in 3 different locations with 3 different sets of cameras.
No, well, Mike and Jana are in the same location.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although,
Scratch that.
In aggregate, we're doing a lot, and we keep saying, we're going to try to keep things consistent, and then we get ideas in our heads.
Yeah. We have to stop that.
If one of the listeners wants to take on a role as a volunteer for the podcast to just tell us not to do things, that would be great.
We're looking for a wet blanket.
Yeah.
If you have an uncle that always tells you majored in the wrong thing, maybe we can make a connection there.
Yeah, and I can't remember what it was, but in our Slack, we came up with a funny job title for that.
Yeah, you did. That was hilarious.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I'll post it on social or something.
Sure.
Yeah, so we've got the first interview that we have this week is with my friend Peter Booth, who we were on the Dem committee together for a while, and he was a participant in the sit-in that just happened at the ICE facility in Williston, and we interviewed him to find out a little more about what that experience was like, and it was incredible to hear.
Yeah, you sent me the pictures of it going on, and I thought, that looks like Peter, is it?
Yeah, well, I got this message over Signal, but it wasn't from him.
Right.
And it was a press release and photos, and I'm zooming in, and I'm I think that's Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, and we, a couple of things I didn't realize is that, at least Peter said that the list for the East Coast of the targets is being compiled in Williston, Vermont, in that office. Yeah.
That felt icky.
It did, for sure. And that they've been there, for quite some time. And, he brought up the issue that, some of these agents were trained. I guess I'm going to use quotes on that. They were trained, but they were not trained to be a paramilitary force dragging people violently through the streets as ICE has become.
Yeah.
They were trained for a completely different thing. And now they've been thrown into something that they were not trained for.
Yeah.
And we had the governor's statement just came out about this, and one of the things he said was, at best, the federal immigration operations are a complete failure of coordination of acceptable public safety and law enforcement practices, training, and leadership. And, you know, there's actually been very few Republican statements on the recent activities of ICE. So this is one from our governor. And many of the statements have been from people who, like us, think that Donald Trump is not well-intentioned and is a dangerous human being.
Yeah.
But there are some people who do not share that view. They think that this is an activity that needs to be a priority and we need to overlook some of these warts. And I don't think the governor is of that mind, but he is probably interacting with people who are of that mindset. And I think it's an important point to make that even if you think this is a viable operation or something that should be done, the incompetence of these folks is absolutely dangerous. They should not be, in my opinion, conflated with law enforcement.
Yep.
We have trained police who go about their activities every day with relatively, I mean, we have our incidents here with police forces, but relatively and the arrests happen without 7 people needing to pile on and beat on somebody like we saw in that video. And they just don't, they clearly instigate. If you follow the full video back, those 2 people were just standing there with cameras, and that agent came up to them and shoved both of them. They are, hot-headed. They are not well trained. They are provoking conflict.
Yeah.
And they are dangerously unfit for that job.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched an interview with Governor Josh Shapiro last night on Stephen Colbert, and he was talking about how he was the former, in addition to being governor, he's the former attorney general of Pennsylvania. And he was actually saying how, properly trained law enforcement are supposed to de-escalate. Yes. They're never supposed to escalate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty shocking.
And, policemen make arrests all the time, either by themselves or with a partner.
Yeah.
And they know how to do that in a safe manner. If they draw their weapon, there is a significant inquiry into why they did that.
Yeah.
These guys just seem to feel free to pull out their weapon whenever and even start shooting.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're even drawing it out of their holster when they really don't need to be, that's a significant problem that's not being dealt with.
Yeah.
And people are getting killed out there because these folks are not prepared for that situation. So there is a massive level of incompetence going on here.
Yeah, that's right. It's really scary.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hard pivot.
Hard pivot?
So we are also going to have a couple of our Statehouse interviews aired from opening day, which was a happy occasion.
Yeah.
So that was nice. And we got to interview the Republican chair of House Commerce, Mike Marcotte. And he was wonderful to talk with. Really, really nice guy, really, really wonderful, really dedicated.
Statehouse veteran in his final session,
Yeah,
which
that
he
was
has just made public.
Yeah. And, he owns a small business. So, it was nice to connect with him about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was surprised to hear in his interview that House Commerce wasn't even on his list. He put in a list of committees he wanted to be on 22 years ago, and House Commerce wasn't there because that has become such a part of his identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He was really fun. And we also had a quick interview with one of my Chittenden County peeps, Representative Jana Brown from Richmond, and she was lovely.
Yes, and she's on the House Education Committee, and she only had a few minutes for us, so we didn't really get to dive deep on that. But yep, she is on that committee.
Yeah, it was sort of a drop-in, but I was really happy that she came by.
Yep.
And she does really cool work in her day job too, like helping kids read. And so I just think she's the best. So that was really fun.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's been some interesting conversation. So in the off season, the task force did its work and did its thing. And then they decided no maps, like this doesn't make sense. Here's a lot of good ideas about how we can move forward that are more intentional and data driven. And, some folks seem really upset about that. And what's happened next?
Well, we are about 4 weeks into the session and nary a mention of anybody drawing a map.
Yes.
In fact, we were starting to hear some walkback on whether there'll be maps from both sides of the aisle in the legislature, which is really interesting. And then there's been some talk about, getting to the foundation formula would be good enough, which is I heard that at some forums last year, and from people who maybe didn't understand the issue fully at that time. And then Zoe Saunders was on Vermont Public, and she said, no, you can't. You can't have the foundation formula unless you change governance. Like, these two things go hand in hand.
Right.
And, we had Senator Gulick on, and the price is the price. So if you set it from Montpelier versus you set it from voters,
right.
if you don't take money out of the system, the price stays the same. So thinking that you're going to set it from Montpelier and that's going to magically fix it is it seems either strategic or naive.
Yeah.
So
it's the same amount of money.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you say, okay, we're going to adopt a foundation formula, but we're not going to change how the system works, we're just going to leave the cost as it is, then all you've done is remove the right of citizens to vote on their school budget without saving them a penny.
I think that really hits the nail on the head for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the problem is, and this is why, the governor, the administration wants consolidation with the foundation formula, is that if you pick a number out of the air and you say, here's your cost per pupil, if you also couple that with you're now a super district and you've got all these buildings and the walls are down and you can move your teachers around and you can adjust accordingly and you can close facilities if you need to get to that number, you do that, you figure it out, you've got these new tools to do it. If you keep the same school districts, which have massively different cost per pupils, and you say, here's your cost per pupil, if a school district has been over that, what are they supposed to do? It's particularly when you add up the mandated services through the Individuals with Disabilities Act, which are required.
Right.
The mandated transportation for unhoused students through McKinney-Vento.
Right.
Required.
Yep.
The contracts, which have been negotiated multiple years in advance.
Right.
That include healthcare.
Yeah.
That continues to rise and rise and rise. If that school can't make that number work, it's not just about making tough choices. It's potentially about making illegal choices at that point. So this is why you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're going to go with a foundation formula, you do need to have massive consolidation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like this is like it's so case in point about, I just feel like public trust in government seems to be at an all-time low. Yeah. And to make any kind of like consolidation decisions, like we need to rebuild that trust first. And we are not there. We need to like communities need to feel like they can trust the leaders they've elected to the state. And the state needs to feel like they can trust the federal government. And we are not there. So right now we need to really like lean into our communities and rebuild our trust with our neighbors and allow us to make those decisions until we regain that trust.
Yeah. And if we have hard decisions, that's the place to make them. It was interesting to me, and we've noted this on the show before, that there was such an insistence from those who were proponents of Act 73 that there be more politicians on the redistricting committee. And what we've seen is politicians at the state level have been very hesitant. Nobody wants to draw this map.
Right.
Nobody wants to put Gilder and Florin together and have, one side get upset that they're paired with this one. Nobody wants to pen that and then go into an election being the one who put together this district that people hate. It gets very real once you do that.
Yeah. I'm still surprised that they didn't have like a more technical group working on those maps and at least put forward something. But
it just makes you wonder if they're saying that we're going to set the cost per pupil through this foundation formula in Montpelier versus local school boards making it. If they're not willing to make the tough choices in Montpelier about a map, are they really going to make the tough choices about cutting costs, particularly when they have to go on the ballot every 2 years? I think school boards have a better position to make those tough choices because generally, once you're in, they don't typically throw you out as a school board member.
Yeah.
You're kind of in for life.
There's also just more,
Until you die.
I just think it comes back to trust, like it's just like your school board member. Like, I don't know. I know mine, and we do have some turnover in Burlington every year, but not a ton. And it's just they've gotten to know us all and, I don't know, post on our front porch forum and come to our PTOs. And I don't know, it's just like, it's a totally different kind of decision. It's about our kids and our schools, and it's just super personal. Okay, so before we get into the interviews, so when we were at the Statehouse, we had a really funny end to the day. So at the very beginning of the day, we drove in together. I caught a ride from you, and we drove into the lot, and then we didn't get a ticket for the parking garage on the way in, and we were like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. Then we parked, and then we're trying to get out of the lot. We got out, we're fine, but we're not like still there.
We lived.
But I remember thinking, like, we were kind of joking about, like, oh my God, what if we're stuck here? And like, I live on the very south end of Burlington. Like, there's a lot of people, like, I could walk across the street and say, hey, could I get a ride home and get home in one piece?
Yeah.
And it just kind of, that was the first, it's not like I didn't know, but it really hit home for me that there is no one from the islands in the Statehouse working in the Statehouse right now.
Nope.
And that just became really crystal clear to me.
Yeah.
You would have been stranded.
Yes.
Like, not really, but you know what I
would
mean?
have hitched a ride home with
Yeah.
a Chittenden, and one of your, I don't know.
One of
we
my
have
42 delegates.
Okay, I was going to say, it's a high number.
Yeah.
And you would have said, well, good luck, Andy, and
Yeah.
left me on the streets of Montpelier.
I definitely would have 100%.
That's that. I would expect no less from you.
And I just, wow. I mean, it's
You could have
tragic.
at least got me to Burlington, and I could walk across
Yes.
the ice from there, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe we would have given you like a sled or something. Yeah. Pushed you across the ice.
Yep, cozy up with Chuck in the hen house.
Oh, I mean, it's just wild. Yeah, you're totally unrepresented. There's major geographic injustice in the maps. Talk about maps. I mean, I'm a geographer. It always comes back to maps for me. But yeah,
We are represented by people from Chittenden County.
Yeah,
100%.
that's weird.
Yeah. Well, Alberg is actually represented by folks from Franklin County in the Senate. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
that's messed up.
tell me about it.
Yeah,
I had to work those numbers.
yeah, you did.
It works against us.
Yeah, that's a doozy. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll make a note for redistricting.
Remember the islands.
Oh, I remember them.
Thank you.
They're lovely.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, we hope y'all enjoyed these 3 interviews. Peter Booth, hello, and welcome to
Hello.
a little mini segment of There's No Way in Creamy.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So we are here. We're buddies. We go back a few years.
Yep.
We've served on Democratic committees and stuff together.
Yep.
But we are here because you engaged in a really extraordinary nonviolent protest this past week.
Yes.
If you could tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. A group of us were kind of came together. Folks, I was the youngest of the group. We were identified as older people and referred to in the press as elders.
I saw that.
Which many, many people are making fun of me for. I am 57 for the record and spry.
Yes, for sure.
So 5 of us got together and a larger group got together and put together an action at Whitecaps Industrial Park in Williston on Industrial Ave. We had essentially a sit-in there.
And what is the tenant there that you were particularly concerned about?
The tenant there is, so ICE is there, DHS is there, and the ICE has 2 facilities where they collect information and create all the lists of people that they're hunting. So there's one here in Williston, Vermont, and the other one's in California, and the California one manages all the people they're hunting in the West Coast, western part of the country, and then everyone they're hunting in the east side of the country is coming directly out of information that's being gathered at that ICE facility in Williston. So we were outside, we were inside the building, but outside their office. They have an interior door, and we were outside that door for about 3 hours last Thursday.
Okay, so you were outside, you got in. How did you get in?
We just walked in because
Yeah.
there's
It's just a regular office
it's just a
building.
regular office building.
Yeah.
There's lots of DCF has an office there. PT360. There's a really nice cafe there. There's all kinds of other tenants there.
Oh, gotcha.
And we went in, and we read a statement at the beginning, and then sort of the process we went through while we were there for the 3 hours was we would read the name of the name and the short biography of all the people who've been killed or who have died while in ICE custody, and then and then we would blow whistles. Whistles have become the way that people in any place that ICE has invaded are signaling folks that ICE is in the neighborhood and stay inside your house, and we'll let you know when you can come out. So we thought that was a good marker, and was very disruptive. We got some very loud whistles. And so every 90 seconds,
Are your ears still ringing?
we were all like this. We were all holding our
Did
ears.
you bring earplugs or anything?
We had earplugs
Oh,
also,
good.
yeah. So every 90 seconds, which is how often ICE picks people up in the country, every 90 seconds we would read a bio of a person who died in ICE custody and then blow our whistles. And that went on for about a half an hour before the property manager showed up. He knows us and is not a big fan of us, and told us we were trespassing, and we had agreed ahead of time. That none of us were going to acknowledge any intervention at all. So we were not going to talk to the police. We were not going to talk to the property manager. We were just going to do our thing until they stopped us. And so he came in and tried to speak with us a bunch. And then he left, and then the Williston police showed up, and just one officer showed up, and she was very, very polite. I didn't talk to her. I was inside, and this all happened. The police all happened outside. Showed up, and she said, "You can stay here. You can be outside. You can make as much noise as you want outside, but you can't be inside." And so in these kind of actions, besides the people doing the sit-in, there's other roles. There's people who are de-escalators, or people who are legal observers. There's jail support if you get arrested, and then there's a police liaison who basically talks to the police and then relays information to the people who are doing the protest. And so our police liaison came in and said, "Hey, just so you know, the police have said if you go outside, you can keep going, but you can't keep doing inside, or they're gonna cite you with trespassing." And we said, "Okay, great, thank you," and we continued on. And then that officer called the police chief to figure out what kind of their next move was. He showed up, and at this point, the property manager was livid and was screaming at a lot of people, including the police, telling the police they had to arrest us. The police then reached out to Sarah George, the state's attorney here in Chittenden County, and told her what was going on, described the situation. She said, "Nope, there's a federal office there. That's protected speech. We have First Amendment rights, which are very serious, and I'm not going to prosecute them." And so I've learned a little bit of law stuff through this, third hand. But my understanding is that then the police chief told the property manager, "We can't arrest them because we've been told that they're not going to be prosecuted." So they could then, they being me and the other protesters, they could then sue the police for wrongful arrest because they knew full well that they'd been told we weren't breaking the law.
Wow.
So they said, "Our hands are tied, there's nothing we can do." That's when the property manager began screaming at the police, and at one point I was told that the police thanked the protest people who were outside for being so civil because he was being pretty abusive of the police. I was told that's secondhand, because the point of all this is to kind of bring people's awareness to what is going on, that literally the whole East Coast is being run out of this property in Williston, Vermont. So the plan was to get arrested, and that plan was not going to work out. So there were 5 of us. Like I said, I'm the youngest. There's another woman who's also my age, 57, and then there's another woman who is 72, and 2 people who are 83. One gentleman who's 83 is also legally blind and has a cane for moving around. And we sort of put our heads together, what are we going to do? And so at that point, we decided to sort of escalate the situation, and we moved over. We were just in the atrium inside the building. We moved over to the door which was the door into the ICE facility, into the DHS offices, and blocked those doors. And we were there for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then two ICE police, ICE officers came out of that inside and sort of tried to they kept asking us for our IDs. And we just continued to ignore them and not talk to them at all, and kept reading names, kept blowing the whistles. And I will say, they were very respectful and not aggressive and nothing like what you're seeing in Minneapolis, which was great. And they told our police liaison, they said, listen, if they don't move, they're going to get arrested. It's going to be a federal charge, and it's going to be a Class C misdemeanor. And I'd done a little bit of reading. I knew that Class C was the lowest level of misdemeanor, but it's still a federal charge. And so we huddled quickly, and 4 of us decided we were going to stay there. And one person said, yeah, I can't get a federal arrest. So that person stepped aside and stopped, which was still there, but it kind of was on the outskirts and no longer with the sort of the sit-in that we were doing. And they sort of went down the line and tried to get each person in our group to talk to them and give them our ID information, and none of us did. And they went to pick up one of the women who was with us, and she said, "You do not have permission to touch me. Get your hands off me." And they immediately backed right off. And then they came over to me, and they sort of, not aggressively at all, but sort of like persistently said, like, you're the one we're gonna be arresting if you don't give us your information. We need to know your ID. And I just kept ignoring them. And then they got up. They 2 of them got in, picked me up, took me over to a different area of the room, of the atrium area. And then they kept asking for my ID. I kept ignoring them, kept blowing the whistle, kept reading the names. And then one of them took out a business card and his phone and began calling somebody. And I figured, okay, he's probably calling his boss saying, hey, we're about to escalate this. We want you to come in and approve it or whatever. And then he sort of wandered away on the phone, and that left a younger guy. There were 2 ICE officers, one who was older and one who was younger. The younger one seemed a little unsure of himself and a little like, what do I do? And so when that other guy left, the younger guy sort of moved away from me and sort of back towards the more general area. And at that point, they hadn't given me any orders. They hadn't told me that I'm under arrest or I was being detained or that don't move from here. And so I just sort of walked back over to where we were and sat back down in front of the doors again. And then after a while, that guy disappeared. He went back into the ICE office. And we waited about another half an hour because someone said the Free Press was on their way. And we're like, oh, we should probably keep this going so the Free Press can get a photo. We had like a half an hour at that point, and then we were like, okay, this is not happening. And so someone who was out, there were people outside on the road with the big ICE Out banner that the Resistor Sisters had put together.
Yeah. And
they brought that in, and we stood up and took that and got a couple pictures with that in front of the door, and then we walked out and went home.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm glad you're not in El Salvador.
I'm super glad I'm not in El Salvador. Yes, that would be shitty, but sorry, that would be bad.
Oh, don't worry. We'll deal with it.
That would not be good, yes. The one part that I don't love about this is that we're disrupting the other businesses that are there,
I appreciate
which
that.
is really not great. And so there's a group there's a subset of our group who are going to go around and talk to the other businesses and explain what we're doing, explain why we're doing it, and offer them earplugs for one thing. But the property manager has said, and I don't believe him, that the other tenants have told him that they're afraid of us, which I don't believe. But we're going to go to them, not me, but some others are going to go there, explain, like, listen, we are nonviolent. You are completely safe. We have nothing wrong with you. We're not going to block your doors. We're not going to interfere with your business at all. Like there's a doctor's office there, and one of the things we're going to ask the doctor's office, and DCF is there, is are there particular times when it's really bad for this to be happening? If, for example, at DCF, if they have like family visits from like 1 to 3 on Tuesdays, for example, if they tell us that, we're going to avoid those times when they have kind of critical moments where it's really a huge problem for them. Try to be respectful of those businesses. But now our message to them is going to be, we're not going away. It seems like Sarah George it seems like is saying we can do this, and so your best avenue is to tell the property manager that if he can't get it under control, that you're gonna leave, and the only way he's gonna get it under control is to get ICE out of there.
Yeah.
And he says that he's got a lease. I think it's a 15-year lease. He's got no way to get out of, but. Our question to him was like, great, show us your lease. Let us have a copy of your lease, and we'll find a lawyer and we'll work with you to figure out how you can break the lease. But we're not going away.
Well, I really appreciate you, standing up and pushing back and, being willing to, to take that kind of risk.
Yeah, it's been great. And the other part, which all of this is like, now I have all these new friends. Like I didn't know any of the people who were doing this with. I didn't know any of the older people, and there was a whole bunch of young people who sort of put us together, and one of the young people said, we had our first meeting on Zoom about kind of organizing things, and the person who was organizing it, they said, and they're like, I think 25 or 6 years old, and they spent probably a full minute of the Zoom conversation trying to articulate kindly and non-offensively that they wanted a bunch of old people to do this because it would be a really good visual, that it wasn't like all these young anarchist Antifa, that it's just like regular old Vermont old people have had enough.
Yeah.
And it was very humorous listening to them try to not insult us while saying basically we need like people who are disabled is better and gray hair is great. Like that's what we want. So.
Well, I mean, I just feel like there's so much in that, not just with what's going on with the national government or with the state. A lot of the challenges is like less acute, but like with the challenges with the state, I do think the onus is on our generation to take action and look out for the next generation. I feel like in so many ways we've failed them.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that, like I have a 15-year-old and I talk with them all the time about this, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep fighting. Like I'm gonna fight for a better country for you. Like I just feel like we've failed them, and I really appreciate you standing up and trying to fight for this country and keep it together.
Thank you. I will say again, just to be really clear, like I feel like it wasn't that big a risk, and that in terms of the risk people are taking in this country right now, it feels very, very minor. But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creamy. Representative Marcotte, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Opening day of the session. How are you feeling?
A little apprehensive, I think, of the everything that's coming in front of us this year. I think last year was a hard year. I think this year is going to be even harder.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could give us a House Commerce 101. How long have you been the chair of the committee, and what functions does your committee perform for the state government?
Sure. Well, I've been on the committee this is my 22nd year. I spent 10 years as the vice chair, and this is my 8th year as the chair of the committee. So I've been fortunate that I've been able to stay on the same committee and happy with that appointment. Originally, it wasn't even on my list when I submitted it to the speaker. Sure. But I'm really happy that I sit on that committee. Yeah. The committee, deals with all things commerce, all things economic development, but all things workforce as well. And we also deal with consumer protection issues. So, we have jurisdiction over Department of Financial Regulation. So we're banking, securities, insurance, property and casualty. We do all insurance except for healthcare insurance. Mm-hmm. We also have some jurisdiction at the Secretary of State's office. We're the business corporation division. We deal with them as well. We deal a lot with the Vermont Department of Labor, and we deal a lot with the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. And we deal, we'll deal with probably almost every agency and department in state government when we're talking about workforce. So, even education, this year we're tasked with looking at the career technical education part of high school and for adults. So that'll be something that'll be on our plate this year too.
That's broad.
It's very broad. a lot of things to look at, and but it's you really don't get bored.
Yeah.
If there's some subjects that can be kind of dry, When we look at the UCC code or something like that.
Sure.
But, the next day there's something else that's coming on the horizon. So there's always something that piques the committee members' interest. With myself, it's always been, workers' comp and unemployment insurance, and, those are the things that I'm used to in business. But when we start talking about banking as well, and making sure that our kids understand what financial literacy is, making
Yes.
sure our kids understand that. And that's something that we've been pushing for a long time, is to have our schools teach financial literacy. And maybe this year, if we are successful in getting graduation requirements throughout the state, the universal graduation requirements, that would be one of them.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be really helpful.
Wow, that's so great that you guys are looking into that. I wasn't aware of that. So, we talked right at the top a little bit about how we could be facing a big session, maybe a tense session. Could you share with us a little about, what the feeling is like in the room, what the big concerns are, big priorities of yours to try to cut through that?
I think it's kind of early to find out what the concerns are.
Sure.
I think, the big three are education, housing, and which we dealt with a little bit, quite a bit last year with the
Yeah.
CHIP program, and also healthcare. And all of those are all intertwined because, they affect our workforce. When I'm looking at my committee and how we intersect with all of that, all of it deals with workforce and the economy and the commerce of the state. So, we'll be looking along with all the other committees of jurisdiction on how do we get through this issue of education and the cost of education, and how do we better provide for our students, our kids.
Yeah.
There's so much going on now since COVID with issues with kids and in the high schools especially, with their mental health. So it's it's something that we somehow have to deal with and understand. Even though it's a school issue, should we be paying for that actually through school funds, or should we be paying that through the general fund?
That's something we've talked about a lot. A lot of our guests have talked about too.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's. I think we really need to strip down, look at our education funding and what are we using all the education funds for. So I think it's going to be a lot of discussion, a lot of talk, probably a lot of angst with a lot of people, but hopefully in the end that we come up with some solution that will be good for Vermonters. We can't keep buying down the rates every year, because we've been doing that for several years now, right through COVID, and it just keeps adding, and in the end, we're not going to have enough money to make that payment.
Yeah, I worry about us losing the reserves too.
Yep. Yeah, and that's got to, that'll weigh heavily on Wall Street as well.
Yes.
When our credit rating, we got to be extremely careful on our credit rating. So, borrowing money may not be as cheap as it is right now. So we've got to be careful in all respects.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So a lot of challenging issues there. Is there anything fun or exciting on the horizon that you're particularly looking forward to this session?
Well, my retirement.
Are you retiring?
I won't be running again.
Oh,
This will be my
wow.
last year. It's been a good run for me, and I'm happy I did it. I really enjoy doing it, but it's time for someone else to step in, and it's time for my wife to take some time off too.
Oh, I'm curious. Okay, so this is your last session. So are there bills or priorities of yours that you're really hoping to see get over the finish line before you call it?
Yeah, probably my biggest priority is career technical education.
Oh, wonderful.
We have a system right now in our governance system, and the funding system is doesn't help get kids into the career center. The funding follows a kid, and so there's not a lot of reason for the schools to move kids into the career center because they're so separate. a couple months ago, we were able to go and have conversations, and the last one was at St. Johnsbury Academy. And to see how they have everything set up, it's like it's a comprehensive, integrated high school. So, kids can go and learn everything they need to do to get to college, but they can also learn all the things that they would like to do as far as a career goes in say, electric or HVAC or plumbing. Even if it's in the arts, doing different things with, what were they doing? Fashion, photography. So, but it's all integrated. There's no money, the money's not following this kid, following that one. And the guidance counselors are well versed in everything in the school, whether it's college or whether it's career, technical education. And that's the kind of system that I envision for the state. And, I could see that happening where we maybe start combining school districts, especially high school, where we build a much larger high school, where we integrate everything and we change the governance system so that everything is very seamless for everybody. And then the second part of it is the adult technical education. Mm-hmm. So our career centers also provide adult technical education, but that's it doesn't sit under AOE's umbrella. It doesn't sit under DOL's umbrella. It kind of just is out there. And so I think that's something that I want to explore this year, is how do we get, where should adult technical education sit? And, we're looking at Department of Labor, how could that work? And we also need to get more money into that side of it. We only provide the career centers, I think about $20,000 a year, and that might buy them not even a half of a director for the adult side. So we're sadly lacking there, and I think that we could provide more educational opportunities for Vermonters that may want to change their career or don't have a career at all yet, and want to learn a trade or so. I'm hoping that's right at the top of my list. Yeah. But the other thing that I would love to see get done this year is some data privacy legislation going through this year. We don't have anything yet we have a little bit on the books, but not enough. And the more things that we hear about AI and how some of the big outfits are treating people's data and moving data around with people not even understanding and knowing it. I think that we need to be able to get something on the books this year too.
That's great. My daughter and my nephew both just came through CTE, and it was a great experience, but they had to be driven, and they sort of had to be their own guidance counselors to make it all work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we have a law on the books, I think it's been on the books since 2011, of individualized learning plans. And, there's only, I think what I heard was about 50% of the schools are actually doing any of that.
Oh, wow.
And so, I think we need to make sure that the law is being followed, and we need to make sure that AOE is looking at that and making sure that schools are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And at the same time, if we're putting these requirements in, we got to make sure that we have the funding for it too, right? And we need guidance counselors that are able to envision everything. But at the same time, we now are turning our guidance counselors into social workers as well.
Yeah.
Right.
And so their time is now taken up with helping kids that are having problems and not able to help kids solve their schooling problems,
Sure.
right? So, we got a lot of complex issues going on.
Yeah, it would be nice if that money could come out of the general fund to put a little less pressure on the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Anyway.
Want to be mindful of your time because I know we're pulling you out of committee,
Yeah.
but just curious how I guess let's call it instability at the federal level is impacting your work here. Are we somewhat insulated, or are there impacts that you need to adjust for?
With my committee, not so much. I think, one of the big questions I had was with the president's executive order on AI. How does that affect us? How does that affect our ability to put laws in that will help with AI for Vermonters? That's something that we'll bring in our legislative council and have those discussions and make sure that what we put in are lawful for as far as the United States goes, and we're not preempted by the Fed.
One more question?
Yeah, one more for you if you have a sec.
Sure.
So you're a business owner. I work for a business. Andy is involved with all kinds of local businesses. So I'm curious from your perspective, running commerce, how you feel about, the suite of programs that the state is currently offering to support small businesses. Do you think there's more room to maneuver in there?
During COVID, we put a lot of money in play for the business community. I'm trying to remember how many hundreds of millions of dollars. It's probably around $450–500 million.
Wow.
To try to make sure that we could get as many businesses surviving as possible. And one of the drawbacks to having all that money is that we're now back into the same position that we were, or probably even less than we were prior to COVID, of how much money out of our whole budget, our $7.5 billion budget, actually we can spend on economic development and commerce. And before we were lucky if we could get $1 or $2 million, and I think we're back to that same problem again, because we have so many other huge issues that we have to deal with, and our money, our money is going a lot to human services. I look at commerce as the money maker. Economic development is the money maker for the state. And so the more that we can do to bring in more money, more business, more better paying jobs, more housing, the better off we are. And we will be in the long run. But like everything, it's an investment, and we have to be willing to make that investment. And sometimes it's hard to take a little bit more here to give a little more there. But I'm happy with the things that we have in place, with at the Agency of Commerce. I'm looking forward to working with Commissioner Jepson, a new commissioner that we have. But there's a lot of good organizations out there that we have funded that didn't get funding, So, when I look at Serve, Learn, Earn, that's been a great program that have taught, a lot of kids and a lot of adults as well, a lot about different trades and how to work together. And, we've heard a lot about what's lacking with people going into the workforce now is they don't have the soft skills. They don't know how to get along with people. And of course, you need people that can talk with people. And get along
I mean, that's the benefit we have over Amazon. Like, one of the big things, right, is that our staff can engage with folks and make those kind of personalized recommendations, and that's one of the huge things we can offer. So we need that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's sad to see so much brick and mortar going away.
Yes.
And you lose that. It's kind of like, cell phones in schools, right? That you lose that one-on-one discussion with people. And you have the same thing in the retail world too, that you're losing that ability to educate a consumer that comes in on a product that they're looking for. And they're taking a chance when they order online. And
you should come back and we could do a whole episode on that, because that is one of my favorite subjects, bane of my existence. Yeah, I love that you flagged that. We need to get you back to committee.
We really appreciate you taking a few
Thank you
minutes
so
to talk
much
to
for
us.
being here.
Happy to be here and talk with you, and appreciate what the messages that you're getting out too.
Yeah, thank you. And
Thank
best
you
of luck
so
on the
much.
session. And it's interesting for me to hear that this was House Commerce was not on your list, because you certainly made it your own.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jana Brown, Representative Jana Brown from Richmond. We are so happy you're popping in with us here on There's No Way in Creamy with our big day at the Statehouse. How are you doing?
I am great. I'm so happy to be here. As I said when I ran into both of you in the coat room, I'm such a big fan of the podcast. I think that you all are doing such great work. So congratulations on all of the success, and particularly your education coverage, I think has been so in the weeds in a really good way. So great appreciation for that.
Thank you. We're just realizing that we started this podcast as you were wrapping up last session. So this is the first time we, actually been in session while we were running the
really?
podcast.
Okay, great.
Yeah, well, no, we had the tail end of the session, but it didn't feel like it, and it was really because of the veto session that it like everything sort of like stupid. Like we were gonna take the summer off, or partly off, and then it was like everything was happening.
We were also going to
over
take
the
Christmas
summer.
and New Year's off.
Yeah, we were like really bad at it.
No.
Well, there was a lot happening with education over the the summer. So
Yeah,
it was,
there really was.
appreciated that you were all right there following all the twists and turns.
Well, and the task force in the fall, it was just bonkers. Do you have any cool bills that you're working on this session you want to tell us about?
Well, probably some miscellaneous things for our miscellaneous education bill. We actually just got started in committee this afternoon, sort of talking about bills that are coming to committee and sort of the big overarching education transformation work, which will be consuming probably nearly all of our time, but there will be time for other things too.
So remind me which committee you're on.
So I'm on House Education.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have a lot on our plate this year.
Yeah. Well, keep us posted if there's stuff we should know about or be covering. We definitely want to know.
Great. Great. Yeah, the secretary is actually coming in at 2 to talk about the agency's strategic plan and some sort of new hiring that's happening there and some reorganization. And I think several of the guests that you all have talked to recently have talked about how we cannot do education transformation work without a very strong agency. So there's a lot to do there.
Right, absolutely. And we were pretty, we don't have to get too much into this, but we were pretty stunned that just in the past couple of days, we see a new policy potentially coming from the Senate Pro Tem about spending caps that it felt to me like it came out of nowhere. I'm sure it didn't, in his head, but we were like, whoa, so that's like all new. And obviously we've got all the different spending models and things that could happen. So I'm glad you guys are on top of it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for popping in.
Thanks for letting me
Good
pop
to see
in. It was
you.
great.
Absolutely.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creamy on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creamy, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify.